Pros, Crystal here from Crystal W Online and Elite Hair Care USA. So today's video is going to be a story time about how I went from hurt to happy by filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So I want to go ahead and just give you guys a little disclaimer. This is my story about my life for myself. In no way, shape, or form am I telling anyone to utilize this strategy to change your life per se. But if you resonate with my story, if you feel that you are in the same position that I was in and this is something that can help you, I highly recommend you seek the advice of an attorney. And I also launched an ebook that talks about how I went from hurt to happy and gives you the different steps and also walks you through if bankruptcy is for you or not. So I'll put a link for that in the description box. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so while I'm doing the story time, I actually changed my hair color yesterday, which you guys can go and watch that video on my Elite Hair Care USA channel. So I went to sleep with it. I put my scarf on. I did not mold my hair. I just used the power of water and the fact that I got a fresh relaxer last week. I molded my hair down and I put my scarf on and went to bed. So this is the end result. Of course, you guys see this nice fish hook right here. So I'm going to be curling my hair while I'm giving you guys my story time. Now today for me to curl my hair, I'll be using the Mended Frizz Control, which is one of our newest products. Okay, so this is the Mended Frizz Control, as well as the H2 Pro 7/10 of an inch Black Diamond Flat Iron. Both of these you can find on my website at elitehaircareusa.com. So I'm going to just put about 2 pumps of the Mended Frizz Control on my hair. Now, this is a glossifier. It is also a frizz controller. It's a sealer. It can be used on low porosity hair, a light amount on high porosity hair, and it just helps to give that hair that luster. It's also a form of heat protectant as well that you put on the hair when the hair is dry. All right, so let's get into my bankruptcy story. So I'm going to go back just a little bit and give you guys a little backstory. When I was 18 years old, of course, I graduated high school right around the cusp of me turning 18. And I got a letter in the mail from Capital One. And I was so excited about it because I had never been offered anything in my life. So Capital One sent me a letter and said, hey, this is an introductory offer. We want you to build your credit, and we're going to give you a credit card with a $500 limit on it. Now, for me, at 18 years old, a credit card with $500 was absolutely amazing because I had no money, okay? I had a little job. You know, you think that you're an adult at 18, and when you graduate high school, you think that, you know, everything is good. Nobody can tell you anything. And you can just start your life as an adult now, which that really is not the case. And one thing that I can say is financial literacy is something that a lot of us lack. And I'm going to say this in a very vague point, so I don't want you guys to come for me. But specifically in the African American community, we are not really taught financial literacy at an early age. Now, parents are getting more in tune with it because they know really how things go. So now we're trying to kind of teach our kids this, but let's be honest, on a day-to-day basis, we don't really get time to do a lot of this stuff. We're still trying to grow and build and maintain our homes with our children in them. So teaching them financial literacy is not necessarily number one priority. We're trying to teach them a million other things that they need to get through life, but definitely financial literacy is going to be one of them. Anyhow, I got the credit card. The credit card had a $500 limit, and I literally blew through the $500 in a day and a half. Long story short, because I didn't have any financial literacy and I looked at the credit card like, hey, it's money, it's cash, I can use it. I ended up going from having a $500 credit limit to owing Capital One over $1,400. And of that $1,400, $500 of it was the credit limit. The rest was in fees. And I wasn't prepared. So I always tell people that, my story is my story, okay? Now, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. People think that because you're an entrepreneur that, you have it all together and you are not human, you are this superpower, and you should not have encountered any of these things in life because you know it all. And we're not human beings. We don't have stress. We don't have we don't make bad decisions in life. Like, that's not possible, when really we made the most bad decisions in life, and just decided that we wanted to be an entrepreneur with it and make it look really, really good when it's really one of the hardest things you've ever done. Anyhow, so that was at my 18th year. Fast forward, I had other credit cards. I had other bad debts that I incurred. And when I say bad debts, bad debt, there's a difference between bad debt and good debt. Okay. So bad debt is you take out a credit card to go shopping for clothes. Now, when you use that credit card to go shopping for clothes, you splurge, you blow the limit, you mess up your credit utilization, you end up not paying it off, you get behind, whatever the case may be, you lose your job, whatever the case. And now you have incurred what we call bad debt because it started out as bad debt. That bad debt that's something that was going to bring more value to you. Now, for the flip side, good debt could still be the same story. You get a credit card to buy clothes for your job that you are trying to get, your uniforms for this job that you need, and you use your credit card to go and get those items in turn to make the money, restore your credit limit, and also restore your wardrobe for this specific job. That's considered a good debt because you did that for good reason with good action behind it. You paid it off. So bad debt and good debt, they are right beside each other on the spectrum. Okay. So over the years, I have racked up a bunch of what I would consider bad debt, but I made the excuse that it was good debt when I was getting it at that time. Okay. And I was also struggling. Like, a lot of people know my story. I was not rich growing up. My parents were the average middle class family. My mom, she's been on her job over 30 years. You guys know my dad is in Jamaica. My dad was a street man. We're just going to use that term. Okay. So my mom was really the teacher of a lot. But at the same time, like I said, you guys, your parents spent their time trying to make sure that they kept a roof over everyone's head, food in the fridge, clothes on your back, that kind of thing. So they didn't really get a lot of time to teach us a lot. Anyhow, I had started to incur a lot of different debts. Some of them good, some of them bad, but I'm going to put them all as bad debt because I made bad decisions with these different debts that I incurred. Okay. So even though they started out as good debts, they were really bad debts because I made them bad by not doing what I was supposed to do and not being responsible. So I would attempt to buy all these different credit repair packages and, try to fix my credit, fix my credit, fix my credit. When really, let's be honest, you guys, the ultimate fix to your credit, unless that debt is a lie, is to really either you're going to negotiate them or you're going to pay them down, take the plunge in your credit score, and then build your credit back up. Well, I tried that numerous times. And let's be honest, a lot of that debt that I did incur, I didn't have the money to pay them back. And that's when one day I was somewhere on the internet and I saw the word bankruptcy. And when I saw that word, we've always been taught to frown upon bankruptcy. It's not good. It's not something that you should do. It's going to mess up your life. This is what we were taught. So if that's the case, and I'm going to use this example loosely, okay? I understand everybody has their own political view, but this is a great example. If that's the case, then how is it that we were able to get a president of the United States who filed bankruptcy more than twice? If bankruptcy was so bad of a thing, okay, if it was just so bad of a thing, how is it that we found a president who is more than financially stable and he's filed bankruptcy many times over? So let's be honest, is it really a bad thing, or are we just being told that because we don't know that sometimes you need a reset button? Sometimes you need a button to reset your life so that you can change your life and make better decisions, be better in what you're doing, and have a better understanding of how you got here because you are knowing where you're going. So when I saw that word, I'm like, okay, well, bankruptcy, that's like a really bad thing. But I started doing a ton of research because I wanted to find out like how to do this, if this is something that I can do. Is it something that would make my life a little bit easier? Would I be able to come back from this? And I had to really sit down and write out the good versus the bad. And there's a term in the medical community, if the benefit outweighs the risk. If you guys have ever heard that, hear me again. If the benefit outweighs the risk, then you do it. For me, the benefit did outweigh the risk. Of course, the risk was now I have a Chapter 7 bankruptcy on my credit report. Now I have to wait 7 years for it to go away, even after I file the bankruptcy and restart my life credit-wise. Now, the benefit is I am able to now get out of all of these debts, these old debts that have been hindering my credit score. They've been hovering around. They're not going anywhere. I'm attempting to get from underwater. You're swimming, you're swimming, you're swimming. You're in the 20 feet deep and you're swimming up, but you're not getting up to the surface fast enough. So you're you're tired. You're at like foot number 9 and you're trying to get up there, but you're just wavering around now because you're so tired. You just can't get to the top of the surface. That is what it felt like when I was trying to determine if bankruptcy was for me. So I decided to have a consultation with a bankruptcy attorney. I contacted them. The consultation was $50. That $50 changed my entire life because when I talked to them, and they really sat down and explained it to me because I didn't really understand. Like, there's so much jargon out there. I didn't really understand like what it entailed. And when they sat down and they explained to me, they looked at my credit report, they looked at my debts, they asked me any debts that I had to write them down, whatever the case may be. And they were like, you are a good candidate for Chapter 7 because I feel like this will really restart your entire life. Now, this is also coming from a person who I was not even able to get a $500 secured credit card from Capital One. Secured credit cards are your money. They have collateral on them, and I couldn't even get as much as that with the amount of hardship in my credit. So, when I went to them, they were like, okay, we had a little meeting, we talked about it, and they just basically said, this is what it's going to cost, which I highly recommend you guys get a bankruptcy attorney. This is the process, and this is potentially what the risks are with you filing, but this is the benefit as well later on. And if you're willing to take that dive, you're willing to take that plunge, you're willing to go through the process and navigate the process, you'll see for yourself how this could potentially be a game changer for you, because it was for me. So when I filed Chapter 7, I didn't tell anyone that I was filing. I told my mom. That was really it. Because it's not anyone's business, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. A lot of people are embarrassed about stuff like that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm filing bankruptcy. I'm going to have to tell. You don't have to tell anybody anything. That's your business. So nobody knew that I was filing bankruptcy when I was in it. And I'm also one of those people where I believe that you don't put information out until you're done. So I would never have done this story time in the midst of me filing bankruptcy. I would never have told anyone what was going on in the midst of what was going on, because I needed to make sure that I navigated it. And let's be honest, some people prey on things. And that's just the world that we live in. And if you live in this bubble where you think that this is not a real thing, you need to burst that bubble and step out into the real world, because your own cousin can sit next to you and pray against you and smile on your face and say that is such a good idea, but they know that this is something that's going to get you out of the hole you're in. And they need to keep you in that hole mentally so that you can stay below them. Let's be honest. It could be friends. It could be coworkers. It could be anybody. Okay, so don't sleep on that. Anyhow, so when I was in the process of filing the bankruptcy, it was one of those things where I didn't really know how much debt I really had incurred. Like, there was so much old stuff out there. There were hospital bills, there were old cards, old credit cards, old loans. I had student loans as well, which bankruptcy does not remove student loans. They have kind of changed the rules now a little bit, but bankruptcy is not the answer if you're trying to get rid of student loans, because all it does is freeze the student loans in the midst of the bankruptcy until the bankruptcy is over, and then about 90 days later they come back and say, okay, you can start paying it now because I don't know what you thought was going to happen. So student loans are out of the picture. Now they do have some exceptions to that now, so that information could change, but I highly recommend consult with an attorney. Anyhow, when I went to file bankruptcy, and this is going to be a pro tip for you guys, and I want you guys to hear me really, really well. I had just filed my taxes and I had my tax return sitting in my bank account. So how I would survive when I was a lot younger is I would get my tax refund because, I had kids. And I was running a business at that time. I was trying to build it. I was also a hairstylist. And I would use my tax refund money as my safety net for the rest of the year because I knew that I would have some type of hardship. I just always knew that I would have a hardship at some point, and I needed to make sure that I had this money that I could pull from because I had already encountered so much hardship that you had to have a better plan. So I kept my tax refund money in my bank account, and my bankruptcy attorney asked me to bring him my bank accounts. He needed to see them up to that day. I brought it to him and he saw that I had about $3,400 in my bank account left from my tax return throughout the year. So that tells you that I have been siphoning through it or sifting little by little. He's like, okay, before I go and file this application, I need you to go and pull this money out of your account. Okay. Well, let Crystal be honest. Crystal's very hard-headed and Crystal likes to double think things. And I did not go and pull the money because I'm like, it's only $3,400. Like, really? It's not that serious. It looks like that's all I have to my name. We filed the bankruptcy and I got my letter to my summons for bankruptcy court so that I could go and talk to a trustee and have a meeting with my attorney. And in the midst of the meeting, it came up that I was an entrepreneur. So I didn't really have a paycheck. All they could go by was what was coming in and out of my account, which really wasn't a lot of money. Then came the account that held the $3,400. And because you think that bankruptcy court is easy, the trustee asked for a continuance. And about 2 or 3 days later, I get an email from my attorney. And my attorney basically said, listen, I told you to take that $3,400 out of your account, and you didn't. And now the trustee has found a loophole in your business that says that your business, you did not renew your LLC, so that business does not exist. So any income that you received is now real income because they can't touch business income. They can touch yours. So he found an exclusion to make sure that my business income did not matter. This is real, you guys. And it turned into my income, and it turned into, oh, you have money saved, so you can use this money to pay some of your creditors rather than it just being discharged and all of my creditors going away. So I was penalized on that $3,400, and I had to use that $3,400 to pay back all these creditors. Now, remember, you guys, this was all the money that I had saved in my account, and they wanted it, and I had to give it. That $3,400 ended up being divided amongst creditors, and I had to make payment plans with that $3,400 to pay some of those creditors off. But then that left me with no money at all because I took my own advice. I got in my own way, and I did not listen to my attorney. And you think that these people in the bankruptcy court are playing, and he literally found a loophole to exclude my business to get that $3,400. Because to them, You know, every dollar that you write off is a loss somewhere else. So whatever money you have, you're going to have to pay it. So that is a pro tip, you guys. If this is something that you are thinking about doing, please follow the advice of your attorney. And please be very honest with them so that they can advise you the right way up front and you don't have anything to think about later on. I slapped myself for 6 months because I literally depleted my savings because I had no choice. All because I did not listen. All because I got in my own way. And all because I decided to do my own thing and say, no, you're not going to care about that. That's all the income I have. Well, now I know. So that was one of the hardships that I faced during the Chapter 7 process. Another hardship that I faced was some of the creditors were trying to distinguish if it was a personal debt versus a business debt, because I had taken out a business loan, but I took it out in my personal name. So a lot of those people tried to come back. And I'm saying a lot. It wasn't that many creditors, you guys. Like, I wasn't that deep underwater. But there was one creditor in specific that tried to come back and say, well, we use this for her business, so this should be counted as business debt. So it shouldn't be counted as her debt. She can still pay us. And then my attorney had to go back and say, no. The paperwork was drawn up on her Social Security with her name as the owner and the guarantor. So because she's a guarantor, the guarantor is now bankrupt. So this loan is going with it. Hence the reason I was able to kind of cancel some of that old business debt that I incurred from previous businesses. I tell you guys all the time, I've had so many businesses that have failed, that have gotten me to this point, but some of them have failed. All right. So fast forward, after the bankruptcy had finally discharged, and discharge, you guys, for those of you that don't know a lot of the terms that you guys are hearing me say, like I said, I did actually create an actual e-guide, an e-book, all about really Chapter 7, and it's giving you all of this good information in a more understanding format so that you can determine if this is something that will work for you. So you guys can check out that ebook. It is $12, you guys. I made it for really the most economically friendly that I could, which is $12. And you can get that ebook at crystalwonline.com. So www.crystalwonline.com, and it's an ebook there, basically called From Hurt to Happy. And that's really how it went. So after the bankruptcy discharged, you know, people tell you that, oh, you can't get a house, you can't get a car, you can't get all these things. But right after the bankruptcy discharge, I still had some things that I had to go through. So I'm going to give you guys this little story time within the story time. So a part of the bankruptcy, I had a Kia Soul, my favorite little car in the world. You guys think I love luxury cars? I loved this Kia. It was just my baby. It was wrapped with my business. I felt like a little mouse in the car. I was ecstatic about this car. I still to this day want a Kia Soul just because that car was taken from me. And I love that car. So the Kia Soul was actually included in the bankruptcy. And I knew that it was included. So I wasn't like shocked or anything, but I knew that they had to come for it at a certain point. I needed to surrender the car, but I didn't have another car, so I had to ride that car as long as I could. So one day I go to this beauty supply that's in an alley, a back alley in the area that I lived, and I'm in the parking spot and I was trying to make a call. I was trying to actually get some over-the-counter medication through my Medicaid. I had Medicaid at this point. This was before Elite Hair Care had a product that had taken off. This was really in my struggle moments of life. So I'm sitting there, and as I'm sitting there, I hear this noise like beep, beep, beep. But I'm not really paying attention because I'm parked facing the fence. And there's a girl standing over here going into the same beauty supply that I was going into. But like I said, I was trying to do something before I got out of the car. All of a sudden, I feel this jerk, like, and the car jerks. And I'm like, so I get startled. I look up, And the girl's looking at me, and I'm like, so I look in the rearview mirror, and I look behind me, there's a tow truck there. The tow truck had hooked up to my car while I was in it. So my car's still on. The car is so little in the parking spot that there are spacers in between each parking spot hump. And I literally reverse a little bit and go forward and jump the bump. And the car was so small, I could maneuver it around. And the girl is cheering me on. She's like, go, bitch, go. Go, bitch, go. Oh my God. And I literally took off from the tow truck because I was so startled. I was so scared. And I'm like, they're trying to take my car. They're trying to take my car. I don't have another car yet. So I'll never forget this day. Oh my gosh. So I go and I drive my car down to this beauty supply, not knowing that the car had a tracker on it the whole time. So they automatically knew where I was all the time. And I called Junie on the phone and I'm like, I'm in tears. I'm like, babe, they're here. They're finally trying to take my car from me. I don't know what to do. He's like, come on, park your car in the garage. So I started parking my car in the garage for about 2 weeks. Anyhow, fast forward, one day I'm in the salon. This was the week that I had done my first video for my product line, which was my Goddess Hair Repair Serum. And I'm at work, and myself and my assistant had went inside, and my assistant went back outside to get something. She's like, Crystal, she comes back, she runs inside. She's like, Crystal, there's a tow truck outside towing your car. And I had to keep it together because I had clients and I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want anybody to know what was going on. So at that moment, my heart was throbbing through my throat and I just had to suck it up. I'm like, girl, it's not a big deal. I knew they were coming to get it. So let me go outside and take my stuff out of there so they can get what they need. But on the inside, I was crying. On the inside, I was hurting. I was embarrassed. I just didn't know what I was gonna do. I was just hurt. Yeah, so when I went outside, the same tow truck driver, the first thing he said to me was like, oh, you can't get away now. And that was the lowest moment of my life when he said that. And I said, well, can I at least get my items out of the car? He's like, I'll give you 5 minutes, get whatever you need, but I'm not moving my tow truck. It's staying right here. And I got my items. And I went back inside and I went to work. And I called Junie in tears. And I said, babe, they finally came and got my car. And he's like, don't worry, don't cry. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And I cried the whole weekend. That weekend, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't get a car, whatever. So I ended up getting an email from, once again, Capital One. And it was called an Auto Navigator email. And the email said, hey, let's get you pre-approved for a car loan. And I'm like, get me pre-approved for a car loan? How am I going to get pre-approved for a car loan? I just filed bankruptcy. I took a leap of faith and I went ahead and I filled out the application. And when I filled out the application, I waited on a response and I automatically know, I'm like, you're not going to give me this car loan. I just filed bankruptcy less than a year ago. You're not going to give me this car loan. Well, that was a lie. Your girl got pre-approved for a car loan up to $40,000. This is the Crystal who had to go to buy here, pay here's. Okay? So to see that I was able to get such a high credit limit less than a year after filing bankruptcy, it was just like miraculous to me. And that was when we ended up going to the car lot, and that was one of the most amazing feelings in my entire life. So literally less than a year after me filing bankruptcy, I literally was able to obtain car loans, credit cards, but I didn't go crazy. I was being very responsible with everything that I was doing, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. So, like I said, from hurt to happy by just making a huge leap of faith. And that's why I said I would share this story time with you guys, because a lot of you don't know that that can happen for you too. And if it's something that fits what you need, then I highly recommend get that ebook. It talks about if you should and if you shouldn't. It talks about the process. It talks about the different things you're going to need, finding an attorney, all of this stuff that nobody taught me. I had to kind of figure it out and just kind of go on my own. But I highly recommend you guys check out that ebook. Go to crystalwonline.com. Get the ebook. It's $12, you guys. It'll be a $12 investment that probably will change your life if this is really for you. And then I'll see everybody in my next story time. But thank you guys for watching.